Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It sounds really strange saying that. However, what we're going to do today is we're going to build the Wonka sweet packet. We're going to be using all the bits and pieces that come in your kits. Obviously everyone has pre-ordered these through my TikTok, so let's get started. So you will get one of these included in this kit. Obviously this is going to be the box that it's packaged in, but all your happy posts come in this size. So if you don't have this box and you just want to do your own prints, this is a 7x5x2 inches. The first step you need to do is unpack all your box, make everything flat because we are going to trim off the top part of this. Like I say, the sweetie prints are, the bag that goes on front are designed for this size box. So obviously you will get one of these. If you've got your sticky label on the front, you know, with your address, just peel that off, get as much off as you can. But this is quite thick cardstock, so it will cover all that. So don't worry if it has got a print underneath. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the edge and I'm going to mark 1 centimetre all the way along and draw a line. Next you will need to cut out your line. So your box should have no flaps at the top and just at the bottom. Just to make sure, obviously, because some of the boxes with it being cardboard, when you sort of like measure it out, some of the joins from the top of the box are slightly down. So just fold it over the edge like this and then just make sure that your line that you've cut is straight. If you've got any excess over, just run your craft knife just straight along there. So do not throw away the excess part that we've just cut because we do make this into a shelf, which we're going to do next. Next, what you'll need to do is fold your flap inside like this. So as all your boxes together, you should have no top and just the bottom. So keep this flap open and we're now going to add some weight in the bottom of here with our glue gun. We now need to add some weight into the bottom of here. I did use bolts on the last one that we did on the TikTok tutorial, but I've also found some silver little washers. So these are going to go inside here with my glue gun. You can obviously use pennies, stones, anything that's going to adhere to this bottom, especially, you know, depending on what glue you are using. So once I've glued those in, if it feels still like it needs a little bit more, then what I'll do is I'll just double layer these over the top, just to be on the safe side so it doesn't topple over. I did decide to double up, so I've just popped these in as a double layer with my glue gun. And now we've got this flap, so obviously we don't want that over the top. What that's going to create is a gap at the bottom. So if you've only got one layer, you might get away with this flap. However, it is easier to cut this part off. So I'm just going to trim this part. Then keeping that flap on there, you can then flip your box and push that into there. So now your box should be really sturdy. So like I mentioned earlier, I did use some bolts on my TikTok tutorial for this. So what you might find is your bolts might be too far this way, which means when you try and pop your flap in like this, it won't push in because it's in the way. If that's the case, just trim as much off as you need, just so it sits flat inside your box. So once you're happy with that, we're going to open it back out and take off the, get the excess that we took off earlier to create the shelf. For the shelf, we need this middle part here. So I'm just going to trim these little bits with my scissors. Then I'm going to fold this in half and then cut off all this excess here. So just to sort of like take that bit of a flap off. If it overlaps slightly like this, again, just trim that off. Flip it round and trim that off as well. So the reason why we put a shelf in is obviously because we are going to put some sweeties inside here. If we don't have a shelf, what's going to happen is everything's going to sink inside. You're going to have to fill all this up to have all your sweeties coming out of the top. So just make sure that your shelf sits on the inside. It will fit more or less perfect because obviously we've taken it from the top. Now we're going to add some height, so keeping hold of it, I'm just going to grab some shot glasses. These are just plastic shot glasses. It helps as well if you're wanting to sit little bottles and things like that on here. So depending on how much you want exposed of this, sorry, it's just gone out of camera. I want a little bit exposed because obviously we do cover it with tissue paper later on, but then you can sit your bottles or whatever you want to do on top, which is obviously going to be further out. So the reason why I do this is just to sort of give me a guide of how far down I want my shelf. Once you're happy with the position, just get your pen and just mark it in this corner here. And then you can remove your shelf, flip this like this, and then just draw a line. And just give you a guide of where you need to go. Don't worry if you're not perfect on, you know, even if your shelf ends up further down like that, you can build up this edge with other bits and pieces. So try and get it as straight as you can. I'm going to run my glue gun along this part here, along this edge and this edge. And then what I'm going to do is follow the guide that I have just drawn, squeeze in my sides of my box, oops, and adhere that inside like this. I've now glued my shelf in with my glue gun, so now it's time to fold your box together. You should now have something that looks like this. So once you pop this flap together, if you've got any excess to trim off, you can just use your scissors or a little craft knife. Again, we do fill a lot of this out, so you don't have to be so precise. Just to join that flap together, I've just used my glue gun and just glued that down there. You can obviously run it all the way down this edge here, which I haven't had to do because I've still got this sort of like flap securing it. So now we are ready to put on our first part of the kit, which is the sweetie bags. You get 2 prints of these. These have obviously fit around this box. Do not worry about any gaps, not unless you've got a huge gap. You can just pop some glue gun underneath there and just adhere that to it. You're not going to see these. So these are going to fit on the top like this. This is the reason why we did cut off the 1 centimetre at the beginning. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some crinkle scissors. You do not have to do this part. And I'm just going to crinkle the edges right the way along, and then I'll be back. I'm just going to pop in again just to show you one edge. These are the little crinkle scissors. These are not great. You might have some better ones than mine. These were just purchased for about £2.99, I think, for a set of 3 from the works. So for this, what I'm going to do is just line up the top of my scissors. Let me just shut that off there. And then all you need to do is just work all the way along, trimming off the top. Yeah, these are not the greatest. They're very stiff, but they'll do the job for this. Then I'm just going to do the same with this one. I've now gone along the edge of both scissors for my little bag print. Because these are the same, it doesn't matter whether you go for your crinkle at the top, the bottom, doesn't really matter. So don't worry, you know, there isn't an upright for these. So you will find where the join is. It is this part here in the middle of your bag, which has got the slightly smaller print to the white. I've done it that way because I find it's going to be easier for you to find the middle of your bag. This is now going to sit on the top, and you're going to have flaps either side. So because I want my flap further back, I'm going to start on the back. So I'm going to line up this line here, which is the thinner print from your bag. Then taking some PVA glue. This is just clear glue. This was from the works. We only used this on live actually the other day, and it sat perfectly on these bags. So if you do use tacky glue, you might find tacky glue is quite harder to spread about. If you also use Mod Podge, you might find with Mod Podge it might start bubbling up your cardstock. So I always say not to use Mod Podge for these. So I'm just going to show you quickly. I'm just going to squirt some on my box. Taking a paintbrush, again, I'm starting with the back. You'll know which is the back because obviously you've got the flap there. We're going to spread all this out. I am not going to go down the sides yet. I'm just concentrating on this part here. Because if I start going down the sides and then I've gone too far, I'll end up with glue on my fingers onto my print. And as much as it dries clear, you might end up with a few tiny marks on your print. So I've glued that. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to take this as my sort of like guide in the middle. Line it up to the bottom. And now you can use a little spreader, especially if you've got a Cricut. I don't even know where this come from. And you can sort of like push that out for it to set. Then you're going to fold this edge along. Just use your fingers. Let me just align that slightly. There we go. And bend this over the edges. So we're just slightly rubbing it. You don't have to score these. Like this. Then, like wrapping a parcel, I always sort of, you know, when you wrap presents and you need to sellotape one area, just put pressure on this part here. We're going to fold this flap back over. Make sure that you've got some glue just inside this lip here. You can always use your little pen. I'm just going to show you a little tip here, because I don't want all my glue spilling out this side. So if you go right to the edge of your glue and you start pushing it down, all your glue is going to come out this edge. So I'm just going to make a little mark here. That tells me I don't want to go past that line with my glue. So we're just going to squirt some more on. Taking my paintbrush, making sure it's gone down that lip there. Spreading out the glue, not past that little guide that I've done. So you might find it easier to paint it on here. I just find it easier to paint it on whatever is going to be stuck to. You've got a lot more guidance of where it needs to go. So squeeze it up, bearing in mind the front is still drying. Squish everything down. And then I'm going to repeat the same process on this side here. Once you've done both sides, like I say, this is still drying it as I'm filming it, you'll feel it's still quite tacky, so, you know, try and not get your fingers too much on it, don't worry so much. And we're going to do exactly the same again process with the front. So we're going to take this tiny little part here, measure it up to the front, pop all my clear glue on the front like this, spread it out. So I'll do that and then I'll show you how to adhere the flaps in a second. So let me just go off camera and do exactly what we did on the other side. I've just gone over with my PVA glue, and now it's the same process to adhere these flaps to this part here. Just run your finger along the edge, flip your box with the other flap upside down like this. And now I'm going to open this out, pop some tacky glue on the edge here. That is really important because that will give you the clean edge of your box. If you don't end up with your tacky glue down here, it might end up bubbling up and then you might end up having a corner because obviously you've missed the glue. So that is another tip I can give you. So run your glue along here. See where it flaps over. So mine is here. So I'm going to not go over this white line with my clear glue. Fold that over and then squish everything down. I'm then going to repeat the same process with the other flap on the other side. You should now have something that looks like this. Don't worry if you've got a slight little bump or anything like that into your cardstock. Once everything's dry, it will sit flat. So just before we pop this to the side, we just need to add some filler inside here. So when we start adding our chocolates, we've got something for it to sort of adhere to and obviously bring in the height. So to mine, I'm going to add 2 shot glasses. Now the other little suggestion, if you want to, you can fill this now with poly balls, pop a cardboard top on it, and then pop that into your bake. That way you're going to have lots of poly balls sealed inside to create that, depending obviously if your shelf, if you decided to go for higher. Mine is further down because I didn't want any of this exposed. For mine, I don't want to fill these because obviously I have done my shelf further down because I want some bottles in here. So I want to glue, use my glue gun and do a shot glass on this side, a plastic shot glass on this side, and then to fill in there, this is a 6 centimetre poly ball cut in half. I will have to trim off some slight excess for it to sit in there as well. Again, all this is going to be glue gunned. The reason why I've used these shot glasses is because later on when we start building it up, I do want to use some glass bottles. This is going to sit on the top of my shot glass and make everything flat. The reason why I'm using a poly ball to go inside is when I start sort of like building up my chocolates and I want to add some cocktail sticks, you know, for my chocolates to go on, I've got something for it to go into which is going to support it a lot more if I was just to pop it into some cardboard. Everything is now glued in with my glue gun, so I'm just going to let this dry because obviously it's still a little bit tacky as I'm filming this, and we're going to build the big Wonka bar. For the big Wonka bar that I'm going to sit at the front, you might want to pop this inside your bag as well. You know, it's all completely up to you. This is an ice cube tray which I have sprayed with just some chocolate brown. I did cut off the top part because obviously the Wonka bar is far too big. You might want to go further down. Again, it's completely up to you. But for this and for your print size, you just need to trim down 2 parts of your ice cube tray and then just spray that or paint that with acrylic paint. As my Wonka bar is going to sit at the front of my bag, I just want to support the bottom part of this. So with a scrap piece of cardboard, you're going to run your glue gun all over your tray. Pop some cardboard on the back and then trim this out. So if you are putting this in your bag, you can use sort of like glitter card if you want to, rather than cardstock. That way your glitter card is going to show, especially when you flip your bag the other way, and stop your cardboard showing. But because this is going to go on the front, you are not going to see the back of my cardboard. So I'm going to glue gun this on and cut this out. My cardstock is now glued to the back of my ice cube tray. So when you line this up, you might have, like I say, a little bit of exposure, depending. Normally when I build these on lives, I don't ever sort of like see the back of it, but just to show you, if you want to cover that up, you can use some glitter cardstock. Just use your glue gun, just take it down to, you know, maybe 2 chunks of chocolate. Glue that on and then cut that out. But like I say, if this is going into your bag, you will need to do this process all the way along the back before you wrap your wrapper on. I've just popped a strip at the top, so I'm going to flip this back over. Taking some kitchen foil, we are now going to create the wrapper underneath before we put the actual print along our bar. I've just torn out a strip. I'm now going to pop this inside here, making sure that my glitter card is at the top. This is going to give me a guide of where to fold the foil as well. I'm going to fold this over. I'm not going to glue it yet. Just so I know I've got enough. Trim off this excess here. Wrap this now over the top, and then once you know everything fits, I'm going to pull these flaps back open. You can use tacky glue for this, so you know your thicker tacky glue rather than the what you call it, the PVA glue, sorry, my brain's still going, the PVA glue that we use for the bag. I'm just going to pop some glue gun on here. The reason why you can use glue gun for this is because obviously it's going to sink into your cardboard and dry a lot faster. I'm going to wrap this over. And then taking this flap, I'm going to do exactly the same, just lining up this part here. Flatten everything down. Lift up that flap and then use my glue gun for that part as well. We have now covered our chocolate bar in our foil, and now it's time to find this print in your kit. So it has been extended to fit a standard ice cube tray. I want my hat to the bottom. You might want your hat to the top. It's completely up to you. So we're going to roughly sort of like line it up to the bottom. We're then going to fold this around. It will naturally fold because obviously it's cardstock. What you might need to do, like I've just done, let me just show you again, is just shuffle this part over so you haven't got too much brown exposed on one side. So just use your thumb and finger and just manipulate that. We're then going to rub the sides like this. Flip it over, and the first part we're going to do is the pink. So the pink has to be glued down first, and then the brown is going to go over the top. So once you've roughly got where you want to go with it, and everything is lined up, open up this flap. You can use your glue gun. Just run, again, just along the edge. Don't go too far. Like we did earlier, you can always mark it if you're not quite sure. You know, just a little bit of glue there and fold that over. Then we're going to take this flap and go the same. So again, this is the most probably important part, especially if you're not gluing it on your bag. If you do glue it on the front of your bag like I'm going to do, you're not going to see the back of this. But if it's going actually into your bag itself, what you don't want is all glue overspilling out of here. So once you've glued this part on, line everything up and flap it over. So if this was going in my bag, I would not take my glue gun past a few mil. So my glue gun would go along this edge here, and then I'd flap that over and line everything up like this. It is now raining, and I'm sorry, I am full of cold while we continue this build. So I thought I'd actually film this as I was building it, but I can't find it on my camera roll. So what I'm going to do is just explain it to you of what I did. So the golden ticket that comes in your kit will have a white border on it, which you can use your scissors to trim around, or use some crinkle scissors like I've done. I lined my ticket at the back, Made sure that my Wonka bar sat flat along the bottom part of my bag. Left a little bit of excess and then just rippled that over the top. I did use my glue gun to stick all this down. So the next part of the kit is the gumball. So what you'll need to do is fold this in half because it's double-sided. Use some tacky glue, your glue gun, whatever you find easiest, and adhere that together. Then with some scissors, just take some of the balls like I've just started doing and just trimming off just around the edge. It just stops it being really square. Then once you're happy, once you've gone around all your print, this is going to sit inside of our bag like this. So you can have it as high as you like or as low as you like. It is completely up to you. I'm going to stick mine slightly up. I don't want it too flat because obviously we're going to have some height on this. So I'm going to use my glue gun, just run my glue just along that bottom part there, line everything up and let that adhere to the back part of my cardstock. We now have our backdrop on and your box should look something that looks like this. So I'm just going to pop that to the side. Now I'm just going to explain some drips. I did do this after my bake from live, but you might find it easier to do it while everything is flat. So these are the next two largest prints out of your kit. You will need to fold this in half using your tacky glue or glue gun, just like you've done with your gumballs, and attach the packet together. So I'm just going to show you on this packet first. So if you do want like a chocolate drip, there is a few options. You can use a coloured chocolate glue gun stick and then drizzle that over the top. You can also take some mirrored cardstock. See how far your drip wants to go down. Draw your little rough drips, cut those out and stick that on the top as well. You can also use PVA glue and sprinkle that on, or you can use this UV resin. So I am still awaiting for some of this that comes in colour. This is just clear, so I'm going to show you the clear version with glitter on the top. You can purchase this on Amazon. So what you need to do is just start drizzling your resin just up and down. Squeezing as you go, just forming the drip. And then what I'm going to do is take some glitter. This is just like a dark chocolate brown. And then I'm just going to sprinkle this just over the top. Obviously it's best for you just to use some cardstock underneath, that way you can gather up your glitter. But because I haven't got too much in this pot, I'm not going to catch the excess. So make sure the whole thing is covered. Shake that off and you should now have a drip. If you've got a tiny little gap at the top, just like this, just go over again with your UV resin. And then what you'll need to do, let me just pop the lid on this because it is a round shape so it won't sit flat. And then what you'll need to do is just take a UV light and just set this on top of your bar. Doesn't take long. Blow off any excess and now you have created a 3D drip. So everything is dry. It literally took 10 seconds for it all to adhere like this. So next we're going to do the W on this one and we're going to do the PVA version. Taking some PVA glue, this is just clear. I have unscrewed the top. I do find if you use the squirty part of the bottle and you try and get it all on there, you haven't got as much precision, shall we say, if you was just to sort of like take the top off, dip it into a little brush. Then I'm just going to work my PVA glue just around just the W. You might want to go all the way along. I've just used the purple as a guide. So as you can see, I've just run it all along there. And this time I'm going to take some gold glitter flakes and just go over the top. Again, I'm not going to catch this because I haven't got much left in this pot. covering the whole thing. Then tip that over, blow off the excess. And then if you've got any missing parts like this, you're just going to repeat the process just by dipping your brush into your PVA glue, dabbing on where it missed, and then going back over with your glitter. So you should have something that looks like this. Let me just blow it off. There we go. So now we're going to leave that to dry, because obviously this isn't going to set just like your UV resin. You might want to do this with UV resin, do the same effect like we did in the previous step. So whilst our signs are drying, just going to bring our bag forward, and now we're going to build everything inside. So depending on what charms you want to use, you might have some little Wonka bars left over from your previous kit. There is a big Slugworth bar, so we can build that one, which is this size. You've also got a fudge mallow, which is double-sided, and a smaller one as well, along with a smaller Wonka bar. Obviously I can't film all the bars being built, because otherwise the video is going to be forever. So I'm just going to show you how to get the wrapper on this. This version will work on all of your prints that you have already got. So taking your bar, what you will need to do, you don't have to score this. There is quite a bit of flap at the back, so obviously your bar can be bigger or smaller depending on where you're going to place this. Just make sure that when you do fold this over, that you've just got a little bit of a flap like this, because you've got to take in mind we are going to put cardboard in this, and you don't want your flap just sort of like joining at the back. So I've just roughly folded it, lining up the sides, and this is the size that I have gone for. So next we're going to need to get some cardstock. Sorry, I did mean cardboard. So what I've done is opened up my bag again. I can see where the joins need to go. Cut yourself some cardboard. Make sure that you've got a flap either side, because once we wrap this with foil, you do want your foil poking out. You can then mark with a pen there and there where your creases are going to go. Cut that out so you've now got a long rectangle. Your rectangle should now fit on the inside of your bar. Like I said, just make sure that your flap is still together. If it hasn't, and it's sort of like gone a little bit too far down on your cardstock, you can obviously trim off some more. That means that your cardboard is far too wide for your fold. Just manipulate that just by folding over the edge. And then just like we did with the Wonka bar, you just now need to cover this part with some kitchen foil. Once your cardboard is covered in your foil, the easiest way to do this now is to line this up into your bar, fold this over, and then just adjust your foil underneath. So obviously both your edges are equal. Flip this back over, keep hold of it, and then you can obviously pop some tacky glue or a little bit of a glue gun just inside that flap there, and then lift that over. And then fold that down. That way it's just going to keep everything square. So we have now built our Slugworth bar. I've just run over my glue gun as well. Again, just bearing in mind when you do use your glue gun or any glue, just keep it away from that flap, because once you sort of like squish it down, it'll all join together without any glue coming through. So again, with this one, we're just going to fold this in half. Now you can put little stuffing in here if you want it to sort of like come out a bit more 3D, like there's something in that. If you want to do that, just bend the edges either side. So you're just basically going to form a pocket. I am going to do mine flat, but I just want to show you. So you can build like a little pocket like this, fill it with some tissue paper, and then what you'll need to do then is just squeeze that together. That way your bar will look a bit more 3D. So for this one, if you're just going to do it like I am, I'm just going to fold that in half, use my glue gun and adhere that together. I'm also going to do the same with this, the smaller one as well. So just fold that over, glue that down, and then I'll be back. So I'm just going to pop these all to the side. It is easier, and I do find this on any bake that I do, to build everything first of what you want to go in it. So we're now going to work on the charms with the lollipop sticks. Then that way you've got everything in front of you, rather than me trying now to attach this somewhere and I'm not quite sure where it's going to go until I've got all my other big bits and pieces. So I'm going to pick out some lollipops. So I'm going to do a few of these and just grab a lollipop stick. These are already coloured. You can obviously use straws, skewers, anything like that. So what I'm going to do now is take my lollipop stick, choose which charms I want. Obviously I want to cover this top part here. So I'm just going to use my glue gun. I'm going to glue that onto there. I'm then going to take another lollipop or a charm, whatever you've decided. You might want some chocolate bars on here. And I'm just sort of like going to create 3 to 4, depending on obviously how far your stick's going to go into your bag. You don't want to be adding an extra one if you can't see it. So I'm just going to work down in a diagonal like this. I did decide for blue on the top of mine, so I've just gone down like this, and I'll show you the next part. So let me take some other sweets. I know you've all got donuts, you've all got loads of different pieces, bits and pieces. So I'm going to use these ones next. So again, I'm just going to pick out 3 random colours. Let's do a green. Taking the top of my lollipop stick, I'm going to use my glue gun on here. It's always best to use it onto whatever you are adhering it to. That way you've got a little bit more control of where it needs to go. If I was to pop my glue on there now and pop that onto my stick, I might find that I've sort of like misjudged my glue. So let me just pop some glue on here. So I started with blue on there, so let me go green. So I'm going to take this just over the top of that stick. Then line that one up. Pop some glue on there. So you might want to make up a load of these different ones, different charms that you've got. You might want to just do some glitter, some straws. Then I'm going to do my other one this side. So again, popping some glue on there. Then I'm not going to go any more down than this because I'm not quite sure how far this is going to sit inside. So, you know, you can add that afterwards once you've got all your display. Bearing in mind we do put some filler inside the bag as well. So you don't want to be using, like I said, all your charms just for it all to be covered. So we've done the lollipop and we've done this one. And then again, you can go ahead, you can do some chocolate. So we'll do another, I will do another stick with some chocolates on, so you can go as mad as you like. These are my 3 sticks so far. Like I say, I will fill out all the other bits and pieces once everything goes in. I just don't want to be wasting charms if I don't need them. So I've done a chocolate one, a lollipop one, and one of the love hearts as well. So let's go back onto the bag. We have now got our sticks, which are going to go in first. We have got a poly ball in here. So obviously these are not going to go into these shot glasses. I'm going to have some glass set on there. If you do want these going into your shot glasses, you will just need to pop a little hole in there just so that sort of like slots in. So with my poly ball, what I'm going to do is sort of like guide it a little bit. Just take my craft knife and just form a little hole inside. I am not going to glue any of this down until everything is in place. Because what happens is, once you start sort of like getting everything together, you might find that you want some excess cut off this and drop it down further. If you start gluing it in as you're placing it, you know, you don't want to be picking that off afterwards if it's not quite in the position that you want. So I'm just going to sort of like use my poly ball for my my sticks. I'm not cutting these down just yet. I'm just making sure that they all sit in there. And then we'll have one at the back as well. Obviously with the one that I posted out, I couldn't go too mad because I didn't know whether it was going to stay as it is with the post. So, you know, if it is just for your display, you can go and add so many more bits and pieces that I did on my previous TikTok video when we built it on live last week. So I love the placement of these. Like I say, I'm not going to cut these down just yet until I get everything else on. So in your kit you will find 3 of these fizzy lifting drink little labels. They will go on any glass jars. You can purchase these anywhere. If you just put in mini glass jars, they will pop up. I've also got a taller jar that I've filled with some polyballs. So these are now going to sit on top of my shot glasses, and this is where if I'd glued these in, I wouldn't be able to manipulate these like I can. So that is going to go on there. Just going to adjust that one slightly, and then that's going to go on there. You can now obviously use your glue gun to attach these, or your UV resin with your light. Everything is now attached, as you can see. So now we're going to go back to our big prints. So we've got this one with the UV resin drip and glitter. We've also got this one, which is more or less dry now, the Slugworth, and 2 of these. So again, what we're going to do is start mounting these onto straws, cocktail sticks, skewers, anything that you would like. You can also obviously sit these flat to the back as well. I do want mine coming out a little bit further. So let me just grab some sticks. So let me just flip you down while we build this one. So I've picked out a straw and a skewer. What I'm going to do is just pop this skewer inside, use my glue gun and attach that just to the inside of the straw. What that does is just give you extra support. Obviously this is going to be far too long. Just poke that back in. Then I'm going to take my gobstopper and I'm going to glue this on the top. I just stuck a little charm on the front as well. I've cut my straw down, and what I've done is just created a hole inside my polyball. So again, depending on how high you want this, that's going to stick in there. Again, I'm not going to glue this until everything is in place. And I feel like that is the height that I want. If you find when you've stuck it into your polyball or into your cardstock little shelf, just keep trimming it off. You know, take your time, keep measuring it all up. But I feel like that sits perfectly inside here. So now basically what I'm going to do is do exactly the same. Mount this, line this up somewhere, take these, line these up as well, and my bar. So I'm just going to mount all these with straws, cocktail sticks, whatever, and then just start filling out all the gaps. So I have glued everything now into place. So the last part of this build is to get yourself some tissue paper or some wrapping paper. Just cut yourself some rectangles. They are, you know, they don't have to be perfect. They can just be as rough as you like, and then you can trim off the top depending on how deep you're going to go. Join this together. Twist the ends, that way you've got something for your glue to go to. Fluff everything out. And then we're now going to just sort of like start gluing all this into our paper bag and filling out all these little gaps around the edge. And this is the finished result. I really hope the tutorial helped with your kit. Cannot wait to see what you create. Goodbye everybody.